Welcome to the J-Cut Podcast. My name's Mike Shantai, and on this podcast, I sit down with creative people to talk about their careers, their passions, and their lives. This episode is for any sports fans out there, specifically hockey fans. One of the things I've done in my career over the last couple of years is ended up working in sports media a lot, which was kind of funny because I've never been a sports fan. I've never been a hockey fan, despite being Canadian. We're not all hockey fans. But I ended up doing a lot of work and continue to do a lot of work with a major sports network in Toronto. And while I was on the red carpet for an event at Kraft Hockeyville in 2018, I ran into my next guest, Josh Laszlo. Now, Josh was a year below me in college, so we occasionally worked on some projects together, like we were both affiliated with him, but never really collaboratively. And when I ran into him on this red carpet, I was like, what are you doing here? And it turns out at this point, he had just recently been hired by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so he now works with the Leafs. He is at every home game, many away games. I ran into him again at another event I was shooting in California, just by chance, walking down the hallway, and we bumped into each other. So I brought him out to talk about what it's like being in sports cinematography, because realistically, when I was in college and wanted to get into filmmaking, this was an industry I never thought of and never really thought existed. So let's just hop into the third episode of the J-Cut Podcast with Toronto Maple Leafs cinematographer Josh Laszlo. Okay, so we're here in my dining room again, and I'm joined by Josh Laszlo.
What's up?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me over.
Oh, thank you for driving out here. Luckily, you live just a block away, so
yeah, pretty much.
That's
like 3 minutes down the road.
That worked out nicely. So you are a camera person, cinematographer. Like, what do you consider yourself?
Whatever people need me to be. No, I would go with cinematographer. I have kind of bent the title to various roles, which I think you kind of have to do from time to time. So DOP or cinematographer, videographer, cam op, whatever. But I like to go with cinematographer.
Sounds prestigious.
Sounds nice, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it was kind of funny because we ran into each other in September when we were in Lucan, Ontario, of all places.
Yeah.
And we're like on the red carpet shooting the event, and I just hear like, Mike, or maybe you said Pranch or Ramit's name, but I just turned out and see you like barreling down the red carpet.
What are you doing here on my turf in Lucan?
So what were you doing in Lucan that day?
I was shooting for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was like my first week on the job, cinematographer of their...
It was that recent?
It was very recent, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just getting started on the documentary show, Blueprint, the Leaf Blueprint. It was in its 4th season now, my first. So, yeah, it was a whirlwind like week.
Pressure.
Yeah. Well, because it gets started, like I got started marketing day, which would have been probably like 1 full week to the day before. And you kind of get thrown into that. And I went straight from the practice rink and marketing day right to Niagara for training camp and straight into Luke. And so like everything was just chaotic, right? Like you're thrown to the wolves, right? Like figure it out.
So how did you get that? Because like, I mean, we met in film school at Sheridan College. You were a year below me, I think.
Yeah, a year after you.
And so you focused on camera, where I didn't quite do that as much. But how, like, I mean, you think film school, most people think filmmakers, TV, film, cinematographers, making feature films or television shows. Did you want to get into sports media while at school?
No. I got into Sheridan on a written assignment. Like, as you know, you had to do some sort of assignment as your application, and I wanted to be a writer.
Okay.
So I did a written assignment and went in thinking writing and directing was kind of what I wanted to do. And as we went through the process, I got into camera and thought, all right, I'll do the camera thing. And I still wanted to do like TV series and feature films and kind of go that route. And by my last year, basically looking for an internship, I was like, I like sports. I could probably work in sports. And I think, ESPN 30 for 30 was huge by that time. So a lot of those things were starting to crop up and in shorter forms and more regularly. And so I reached out to an OHL team, the Guelph Storm, and kind of created a role for myself. And that was enough to make me think, yeah, this is what I want to do. I went in thinking something completely different than what I came out with. So
that's kind of fun because I also never thought I'd be working in sports
Right.
media at any point. So it's odd how that kind of happens because like mine was just straight up a phone call that led to me working for Sportsnet and Rogers and doing all this kind of crazy stuff that I do now.
It can come from anywhere. So I got my first gig or connection to Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment through Twitter. It's not someone I was following. Someone I was following retweeted something in. They were looking for cam ops, and I was still interning at the time. And I was like, oh, I'll save this tweet for later and reach out to this person like when I'm done school, right? Like, and they reached out to me seeing that I had liked their tweet or whatever, and like, hey, I see you're a cinematographer or cam op, whatever you want to call yourself at the time, and like, let's meet. And I was like, okay, sure. And they right on the spot, they were kind of like, I like your stuff. Like, we just need extra hands, and we'll get you doing camera stuff. And so that was for the All for One show, the documentary series following the Toronto FC, and I was working like once a month, and that was kind of the break. And I had one connection, Clayton Hansler, and they just kind of grew from there. So it can come from anywhere. Like,
how do you land the gig you're doing now during the season? Because and what do you do during the season?
Everything. No, I got it. So like, I was freelancing for MLSE for a few years and getting involved with more producers. And then when Clay left the All for One show, they asked me to take over for him, which I was like, yeah, like this is kind of the dream job. Like, I get to have my own show. I'm the cinematographer, whatever. So I did that starting January in 2018. And I was like, this is gonna be sweet. Like, I'm gonna do this for a few years. This is gonna be awesome. And by September, they were like, you want to do the Maple Leafs instead? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Don't ask twice. And I had just gotten married at the time, like 2 months before, and they're like, do you need to like talk to your wife about this? I was, no, she'll understand. Yeah, so I was like, I will make this decision for myself. And ask forgiveness later.
So then, so you started that in September. What's it like going through a season? How often do you travel? Like, are you mostly doing home stuff? Do you travel a lot?
I'm at every home game.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a guarantee. So like that's a lot in itself, because as you know, working in sports, like it's evenings and weekends, right? Like, as much as you think you're a freelancer or working for yourself, whatever, like you're kind of at the whim of a sports schedule, which is always just evenings and weekends. So I'm at every home game, and I think I did the math recently, but I think I did like 13 road games in the regular season, which would be about a quarter of them. So it worked out to being away like once a month or for anywhere from 3 days to a week. So
yeah, I know those traveling for work projects where it's like fly out, work the next day, fly back.
Lots absolutely. When I was younger, I always thought it'd be cool to travel for work. And then I did it a little bit with TFC, and I was like, yeah, this is all right. But they're sending you like Kansas City and Columbus. You're like, nah, all right. It's not all it's made out to be. And then I started doing it with Leafs, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's cool.
It's a
but
grind.
Also I'd like to be at home.
Yeah.
Right? Like
it can be tough, man.
Yeah.
And like,
for sure.
I mean, with a lot of the stuff I do where I'm editing and producing and, working for multiple clients, it's like this huge, I'm going to be gone for like 3 days. And it feels like I cram 3 days of work into the 24 hours before I leave, because there's just so much to make sure is taken care of before I vanish for 72 hours. Like, do you find that the same way too? Like, or is it?
Yes, to an extent, but like I'm very fortunate that I kind of just get to go and shoot and then hand it off.
Yeah, you lucky.
So my hours can be a little bit lighter than producers and editors and directors and all that have to like sit through all my stuff and figure out if any of it's good and like find the best parts. So I did Vancouver for a week or 5 days. For one game, a couple practices, like whatever, but I had time. I went up to Whistler and went skiing for a day. So I was like, this isn't so bad, from time to time. But
I did that in Calgary like last month.
Yeah.
I was going out for a shoot, and I knew I had to turn this like spot around in 48 hours. Like I had to shoot it and edit it the next day, and then it had to air less than 2 days later. And so I knew I wouldn't have any free time after the shoot. So I asked them just to like fly me out a day early. I was like, I'm not going to bill you a travel day or anything. Just like fly me out because you're going to pay for the flight anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have a buddy who just moved out there. So I was like, I'll go stay with him for the night and just like we'll drive out to Banff or something and, you know, see somewhere I've never been before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice perk being able to like find those times. But there's times like when I went to Vegas with the team, that was kind of like a last minute trip. The team was on like a big like 2-week road trip and we were just like, oh, we just have to go to Vegas for 3 days. I was like, oh, that's not the worst thing in the world, right?
Yeah, but Vegas, 3 days is enough in Vegas.
3 days is enough in Vegas. And, you know, sometimes like, obviously when you're traveling, you are at the mercy of team schedules. You're also at the mercy of like flight schedules and everything like that. Like you can't just decide when you're going to go exactly. But I was kind of like, well, I don't need to stay in Vegas longer than I already am. So, you know, they initially were like, yeah, you're going to fly back at like 1 o'clock the day after the game. And I was like, there's a 1 a.m. flight right after the game. You want to just put me on that one? Like, if that's what you want, red eye. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll sleep on the plane. And then I didn't realize it was like a connecting flight, 2 hours to Dallas, an hour layover, 2 hours home. And you're like,
you screwed up.
Oh, big time. So I got home at 8 a.m. and I was like, I think it's bedtime.
Yeah.
You know, like I did not sleep.
Yeah.
So, you know, lesson learned.
Where'd you stay in Vegas?
I stayed at the Bellagio, I think.
I've been there twice, and I did Venetian and Park MGM. Both just down there for various hockey things.
Yeah.
When did you go?
Valentine's Day, which is part of the reason of getting back immediately.
so that wasn't as appreciated as
no, not so much. I mean, my wife and I are not big Valentine's people. We didn't have plans, thankfully. But I was kind of like, if I'm gonna go, I should probably get back as quick as possible, right? So,
but you know, when the opportunity arises, you can push Valentine's Day to February 16th.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so much quieter at the restaurants and everything.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
Did you go to like the actual Knights? Did you shoot a Knights game when you were down there?
I shot the game.
Their games are
awesome,
wild.
They are fantastic,
incredible.
Yeah, they got like showgirls like dancing at the glass for like the warm ups, like as a distraction technique bizarre. Or something. I don't know, but like you just turn over and you're like,
and it's so over the top too. Like, I don't know what, because I watched a Canucks Knights game. At the beginning of the game, they had like the sword in the middle of the rocket. It's like this guy
elaborate
skates up
thing.
And then like pulls what was this, a Canucks kind of branded jersey person.
Yeah, he can't
pull the sword out, and then the Golden Knight does, and everybody goes wild. And it's like it's loud. Though.
It's Vegas though, right? Like they play into that market so well.
I stayed at the Park MGM, and so I'm literally across the street from the T-Mobile. And the first night I got there, I was in my hotel room, and there was a Knights game. I think they were playing the Predators or something, and I could hear the cheers from the arena in my hotel room. Yeah. Like they get loud.
It can get deafening in there.
What's it like though? Because I mean, I find when I'm working with NHL players, like, do you work with the guys a lot, like on the Leafs, or you kind of just more fly on the wall? Like, you probably get more access than I ever do with any of the Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I work for the team. Hopefully, they're giving us the most access, but there's times like in the playoffs where we had to step aside to let an NHL camera go in and do their behind the scenes stuff. And I mean, it's all for the greater good of the sport and the teams and everything like that and promotional stuff. So, but yeah, I definitely have pretty good access. But the goal is to be a fly on the wall and not be noticed. So one thing I was told is like, you're a fly on the wall, but you're going to get swatted, right? Yeah. Once in a while, like they're going to notice you, you're going to be in someone's way or what have you. And that's fine. But for the most part, I don't think any of them know my name. And that's probably me doing a good job, right? Like they're just like, all right, familiar, but
it's like, I recognize his face. So he must be,
he must be okay. He's wearing Leaf stuff all the time, right? So either like PR is okay with this or he is fooling everyone.
Yeah, man, you can walk into a place with a clipboard and get away with breaking the rules sometimes.
Everywhere I go, like I just act like I know where I'm supposed to be, act like everything's okay. and then people just kind of like let you go.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not trying to break any rules or do anything bad, but sometimes like you're getting into areas that most people can't.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask permission, you're going to have to go through so many different channels where you
Yep.
just kind of march your way through. Like, that's where you're supposed to be. People are like, all right.
Easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah. I had a security guard kind of chase me in Boston. Like, because I went through the tunnel,
mm-hmm.
past the Bruins locker room into ours. And that was just hanging around. He like came and found me. He's like, are you supposed to be back here? And I've got like the equipment manager, like, yeah, I can vouch for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's like, you got the wrong pass. I'm like,
I was going to say, they didn't give you a credential?
The one I had for Boston was like TV and radio.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
I'm not live TV.
How about like a photo at least?
Yeah.
So it's similar, right? But I almost never get like an all access pass, which I feel like would be helpful. So yeah, usually I'm just like, yeah, I have something, so let me go. and
at every game, every project I've worked on, like where we're live, like doing stuff at the Scotiabank Arena or back in Edmonton, there's like 8 different types of passes that get you into different spaces
and at different times.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you just kind of hope that this one will get you where you need to be or where you were told you need to be.
Yeah.
And do your best.
Yeah.
But what I've learned that's crazy about working in sports media is everything is all about really stringent scheduling and just getting what you can. Because, like, is that the same thing when you're working direct with the MLSE? Like, because the game starts at 7:00.
Yep.
You got to get all your stuff done before the game and then be where you need to be during the game. And access to players is almost impossible sometimes, or at least in my experience.
Yeah.
Is that tough as a, cinematographer? People think cinematographers are always trying to get like the best shot, and you want to frame up the best shot and get that perfect moment, but it's almost damn near impossible in sports media.
Yeah.
With how run and gun it is.
It is. Well, and the funny thing is too, the various teams within Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, so like the Maple Leafs, the Raptors, Toronto FC, they all have kind of, it's all through PR.
Yeah.
So they all have different restrictions. So when I was with TFC, I could kind of just go into the locker room whenever, hang out for as long as I wanted, get what I needed to get. And I was good about it. I'd be like, all right, there's nothing going on. I've got this guy tying his laces. I'm out of here, right? I don't want to be in anyone's way. It's way less so with the Maple Leafs. It's like, on a game day, I go in with a broadcast camera and you get 45 seconds to 60 seconds and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're out. So the best that best access I get is when we win, I'm in the locker room waiting for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I got that initial reaction of them coming into the locker room, high fives, cheers, whatever it may be. That's kind of like ours exclusively. But yeah, and then you're like, okay, who am I getting? What's going on? So you're just constantly rolling and looking for 3 seconds of something that can be used, because you expect, even I'm surprised sometimes. I go in there, I'm like, man, that was a hard fought win. That was a big one. And they come in and it's like any old day, like just it's 10 o'clock. I want to go home, right? So you're like, oh, they're like, yeah, this is just game 53 of 82, like whatever, right? And you're like, oh, but that was
a great win.
Yeah, like that was, oh my goodness. Right?
So when you're traveling, you're working, doing these shoots, you have those like 30-second windows to get in and out of a locker room, or like, is that challenging for you as a camera person or cinematographer, in that it must feel like you're getting a lot of the same stuff every week or every game?
Yeah, it is, because you're going in at the same time, like before a game, like the game clock's kind of counting down to warm-ups or the end of warm-ups, whatever it is. You're going in basically within the same 1 minute window. And obviously athletes are creatures of habit. So they're all pretty much doing the same thing every time.
Yeah.
And you go to practice and you're shooting that, and you're doing like, again, you're very like kind of restricted in where you are, right? You're indoors all the time and in the same spot. So it can feel very repetitive, and you have to figure out like, how do I see something new? How do I shoot something new? Like I started like frosting the glass, like with my breath, and trying to like pull through it, like you shoot water drops, like whatever you can to make it look just to be something new.
But do you like that challenge to try to like it, or is it sort of stressful? Because it's like, does it feel redundant or repetitive?
It does feel a little repetitive, but it's a nice challenge. And like every new rink you go to at least feels fresh, because now you're figuring out where are you coming in from, like who's sitting where, like everything kind of, and then it becomes like a time crunch because you've got 60 seconds and you're wasting 5 seconds figuring out where can I stand.
Wasting 5 seconds.
Wasting
like,
5
that's
seconds.
That's how tight your schedule is.
Like where can I stand, or like, again, you can't get in these players' way, right? Because you're now minutes before a game. And if someone gets up to move and you're in the way and they give you like a little tap to move, now you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm not getting anything this time, right? Like I had 60 seconds. I had to get this.
Yeah.
And I come out and usually I'm giving like a quick update to my producer. What'd you get? And I come back and be like, no, I didn't get it. Like I had to move for this guy, or he wasn't even in the room. Like they're doing something like, he was in the bathroom. I don't know. He was getting a banana. Who knows what they're doing if they're not inside those 4 walls that I can see. God, nothing. Yeah. Try again tomorrow.
That's always like the tough part producing these things on site is just like, and I mean, I never really got into like I kind of fell into sports media producing and whatnot. So the first couple events I did, and I'm not like you where you are doing it very regularly. So it's like once you do 1 or 2, you get into the habit of just like what you can do, when you can do it.
Yeah,
and whatnot,
for sure.
Where I don't like, I mean, I've worked games before, but usually I've got months between one game or another. So I don't know where I can be. And like, if it's, and it's tough to sometimes get like proper answers from someone who has the authority to allow you into a certain space. So the scheduling is just bonkers. Like
the good thing is that like they are creatures of habit and you start to learn what they're going to do when. So like if we're shooting every home game and every warm up at every home game, by like the 10th one, you're like, all right, at this time, this player's going to do this. So where do I need to be to make sure I get that at least one time so that if we ever need it, it's banked.
We can,
right. So like you start preparing like, okay, Andreas Janssen will come jump into the glass at this end of the rink after he's done this thing. Okay, got it. Oh, Mitch Marner's going to do his thing. Okay, he's stretching. And I can be shooting something else and keeping an eye. I'm like, oh, his stretch is almost done. That's where he's going to do his little jump.
Yeah.
Better, frame up, make sure I'm ready for it. Like, so that, I mean, it becomes, you're doing repetitive things, but they are too. So you can be like, make sure you can anticipate things and you can make sure you get it right when you have a little more freedom because they're out in the ice and they're in the public eye.
What was playoffs like though? Because I mean, they've made it the last couple of years, but playoffs is kind of a whole other monster in Toronto, at least.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It was quite the experience. It definitely, you could feel it in the city, like everything ramped up. You could feel it around the team. And it was totally different in terms of like, even for travel. Like, we were short flight to Boston, but 90% of the flight was people covering the series.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it was for us or for broadcast or whatever, it was different. And then obviously I was going from traveling once a month for a couple of days to traveling every second day. Right. Especially when you get into the back half of the series and it's 2-2 and then 1-1-1. It became, is today a travel day or a game day?
Yeah.
Right. And like it was over Easter weekend. They had a game on the Friday and a game on the Sunday. And I did my family thing on Saturday and I was talking to my wife and she was like, it's gonna be nice tonight. I'm gonna crack the back door. I'm like, no, I'm gonna be freezing. Like you didn't do it last night. She's like, you weren't here last night. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah. Right.
What city am I in? What day is it? Like, where am I supposed to be right now? Like, it got a little crazy, but it was a lot of fun. I wish it was a little bit longer, but.
So you've been doing sports media. What else are you doing on a regular basis in this media sphere?
Not much. No, honestly, like the LEAFS took up so much of my time that when I had a day off, I took it, right? I wasn't hunting down work, which is very different because I've graduated 4 years ago now. And up until probably September of last year, if I had a day off, I was like, I should be working. Yeah. I need to be working. I need to be making connections. I need to be hunting people down, like asking whatever. And then the Leafs season came and it was a full-time job. So, whether you had Tuesday and Thursday off and you worked the whole weekend, you're just like, all right, well, I'll take my 2 days off and take it easy. So I was able to squeeze in a couple extra things here and there. I did a Bauer shoot in Montreal. which was another one where you're just like in and out. I actually went from Minnesota, laid over in Toronto, straight to Montreal, slept, shot that day, and came back the shoot day. So I was just like, it was a bit of a whirlwind, but it was like a charity thing that Bauer was doing. It was like a really cool opportunity, and I was like, oh, yeah, let's go to Montreal. Let's do it.
I know, I've gotten those couple calls too. Like it was Montreal as well. I was like, got an email and it was like, can you go to Montreal tomorrow and shoot this thing the day after that and then drive back that night? And it was like,
yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Driving's like when it comes to Montreal, everyone just wants to drive.
Yeah.
It's close enough that it can save you a lot of money and everything. But man, flying just makes it so much quicker, right?
Yeah,
like,
I know. Well, it was just like last minute. We had all this gear we needed to bring, and it was just gonna be like, this is gonna be.
Oh,
easier
I'm sure that would be a
if we
huge
just
hassle.
Drive.
Yeah.
Like it's because traveling with gear is it's the bane of my existence. Like, how much do you travel with when you?
I bring basically a carry-on.
Yeah.
For gear, if it's in like a little like suitcase that's carry-on size, most airlines are okay with that. I've had a couple that are like, that's not going to fit anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then they make me take out my batteries and put it in a grocery bag and my lenses because I'm not putting those under. And then everything goes underneath, and I'm like, I don't feel good about this.
It's the
and
worst.
then the one time it happened, I was coming from like Kansas City or something, and I sat and I must have had like the extra legroom seat, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like
it would have
like I can't touch the seat in front of me. Yeah. My bag would fit.
Yeah.
Like, and no one beside me. I was like, oh man.
I've found it's just easier to just try to keep attention away from it, because I've definitely gotten on with more bigger carry-ons than technically what's allowed, and you just kind of smile, give them your like ticket and passport, and just hope no one notices like the size of the carry-on you're bringing on, because it's the most like panic-inducing thing.
Oh, for sure.
Is like, we're shooting tomorrow and we are putting our camera and all the like, I mean, when we're traveling with the C300, like it's a big case and it's basically has to go under, and we like pack the thing with foam and everything. But it's like, if it gets sent to somewhere else, like we got to scramble now last minute to find a rental, or which is why we bring small B cameras everywhere in our carry-ons in case.
It's very nerve-wracking. I mean, I've never gone to the airport with my gear intending to check it. So I always, you can get through security. No one's checking you really until you get to the gate. Yeah. And that's where you have the problems. And thankfully it's only been once or twice where they're like, no, this has to go underneath. But what I started doing was, because most of my trips are short, I'd bring like a second carry-on of my clothes. And then they're like, we have too many people. Yeah. We need people to check a bag. I'm like, here, take my clothes, and then and then this will stay with me because I've already given you a bag.
I can lose my clothes. That's fine.
I can buy more clothes, no problem.
If I can wear this tomorrow if I absolutely have to. There was a little tip that I've heard once where if you're traveling with a camera bag or something, just ask to get on with the priority boarding, because you're traveling with very expensive gear in your carry-on. And 99% of the time they are like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. Like, just let the let wheelchairs and kids come on, but you can just get on with the priority boarding after that. And I've done it a couple times where it's just like, hey, I'm traveling with like, $30,000 worth of gear in my bag, and I want to keep it close to me. I don't want to get separated from it. Do you mind if I just hop on initially? Because then you can claim that overhead space right above your seat. And I've never run into a problem.
That's good. I'm definitely gonna have to try that.
Yeah.
When I go west next, because that's always my biggest concern is like, this flight's gonna be full, and somehow they're gonna make me check this. Yeah. And so I'm always like, as soon as they're like, oh, we'll be boarding in 10 minutes, I'm like, well, time to get in line. Yeah. Like, I gotta be first in line for my zone. And
yeah. How many flights have you been on then in the last eight months or since September?
Too many. I've been trying to keep track of my Aeroplan miles. I'm trying to get to that status level. And, I think since January, I've collected like 10,000 air miles. So it's been a lot of miles. I've been trying to keep track on my phone since the start of last January, when I kind of got the TFC job, how many flights I've been on.
What's your kit like when you're out doing these things?
I am shooting on a C100 Mark II currently. I usually have 3 lenses, Sigma 24-70 art series, 70-200 for Canon, and a 100-400, which is very nice and very challenging for hockey because A, it's a fast sport, and B, just all the glass that's in the lens and then shooting through a pane of glass. If you're not shooting dead on, everything looks out of focus or like just weird. So
also, like if you're hand holding a 400 millimeter
yeah,
lens,
like I'm pretty much hand holding or like a shoulder rig for
Yeah.
like for game time. I'm on a shoulder rig. Otherwise, I'm handheld for everything. I'm watching a game through my monitor's like I don't know,
Yeah.
like the size of a cell phone at best. So you have your peripherals, but you don't really get a great sense of necessarily what's going on. You learn to anticipate what's going, how things are going to happen. You learn your fallbacks, right? Like if they're whipping the puck around, you're like, I don't know, where's it going? Where's it been? Goalie. Let's just settle there. Let's figure things out. That
use him as a
plant the camera there,
an anchor, like
take a peek, right? So with your own 2 eyes, right, on a 5-inch screen, and you're zoomed in to see like chin to eyebrow or whatever. You're like, I don't know what's happening. Like if they're not perfectly in focus, they're not even in the frame. Like you're just like, oh,
or when you're zoomed in that far and you have no idea where you're actually pointed as you're trying to figure out where you need to get.
Or you're like a little bit soft. You can't tell if you're far or you're close. You're like, oh my god. Yeah. So it got a little stressful, and then like I was trying to shoot through the photography hole because it wasn't being used for it was a Marlies game, but then I'm like fully walking with the camera to try and get the angle so I can keep it clean and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not doing this again. Yeah. Like that was a tough one. And I don't know how much I got that worked. So,
and I mean, the couple times I've run into you on site, it's just you and a producer. So you're
it's lean.
You're swapping your own lenses. I don't know who you hand off your media to, someone in the pool, I presume.
I hand it off to my producer.
The card is theirs, and
the card she'll dump it onto her hard drive. When we were in the playoffs, like basically if we win, we need 1 minute out the next day.
Yeah,
1 minute moment. If you're in Boston, the game ends at 11 o'clock. She's editing it, right? Like she's got that capability, so she's gonna do the editing and stay up all night. And so you're just constantly like trying to go through like this is what I have, like.
Hand the card off and be like, I'm sorry.
Good luck. But no, you start like, you're shooting the game clock in the arena. So they've got a basis point. If you see something like every time there's a goal, I go to the clock after so that they can quickly find it based on the score. But if I shoot something, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I just shoot a black screen to help them find it. Right. Cause like, by the end, the C100 shoots very like compressed. Like I shoot a full day. It's like 30 gigabytes. Like it's really not that much.
And you're just doing 1080p.
1080,
stuff, right?
60 frames mostly, but 24 obviously otherwise. But for them to like go through and like, especially with gameplay, you can be shooting like a really long clip because you're waiting for something to happen. Like you can't just be like, oh, there's a hit. Oh, look, I pressed record too late, right? Like so, if the game's going on, I'm recording.
Yeah, you want to get a good reaction.
If they need to find like a hit,
yeah,
they're gonna scrub through 60 minutes of gameplay to find that. So like I try and give them like a marker somehow, right? So
that's pretty. See that, and I've been doing sports media for a while. I've never thought of that, but usually I'm not capturing a whole game, but we have had that challenge where it's like, we went out to Buffalo, for a Leafs game back in March with some contestants that won a trip out there, like just bus trip down to Buffalo, and they were in the box and whatnot. And it's like, we're trying to get a good reaction, like for this piece. Cause it's just like, it's, high energy. It's super fun. These fans won this trip. Let's show like them reacting, but like, they're all, they're there for fun. They want a trip. It's tough for me as a producer to try to be like, try and orchestrate a fake cheer. You know what I mean? So, and I tried it a couple times, it just weren't good. So then it's like, just be on standby, but I don't want to eat, shooting like 4K footage. I don't want to eat 2 terabytes of just garbage media.
Yeah, because you're just waiting. I know. I did a shoot for the Leafs the season before getting on Blueprint. A similar thing. They did like a Molson Canadian rivalry train. Yeah. And they sent a bunch of fans up on the train to Ottawa and had them in a box and watched the game and everything like that. And so I was shooting the fan experience, but we didn't have credentials to shoot in the arena.
Yep.
So Blueprint thankfully was there. I handed my gear off to them and just kind of hung out and watched the game. But then we needed those kind of reactions, those interviews, those comments so we had Blueprint coming up to work during intermission, which like when you're working a game, you want those like 10 minutes to just sit.
Yeah.
And we had them coming up to like the upper box or whatever it is that we're in, doing interviews. And then the lights are low. Obviously, like the lighting's completely different during an intermission. And we're like, all right, fans, cheer.
Yeah.
Like, we need it. And this is the only way, like we can't even be on standby because we're not allowed to have a camera.
Yeah.
So it gets tough, but
I know I've done a few fan experience type things too, where they're not at the game. It's at like a restaurant or something. And we're just, you know, they're getting their meals comped and getting free drinks and stuff. And we're just there to show, look how much fun everybody's having.
yeah.
And at least there, I've been able to command enough, like I can get a microphone or something and be like, all right, everyone, like look here. And like camera's going to walk through and just give like a big cheer as if the Leafs scored a goal or whatever. And we can get those things. And like for the 2 seconds that they're going to be on camera, they look great. But if you actually break down some of these shots I've got, like I did one out in Winnipeg like this, and it's like we're walking through and everybody's cheering, looking up, but there's a straight up TV screen that's just playing a commercial in the background. Yeah. And it's like, no one's going to look that closely at it. Like, and this is all I had. This is all I could get. Like,
yeah.
Or it's like a game where it's a blowout and their team loses. No one's excited.
Yeah. I find that there's a lot of that in this industry where if you're in the industry, you're very nitpicky and you are very focused on little things.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have a tough time removing themselves and being like, what's the viewer actually going to see?
Yeah.
Is the viewer going to see in a 1 second clip of people jumping up and cheering? They're going to notice, like, are they going to break down your commercial enough to, like, this isn't Game of Thrones.
This isn't the Avengers trailer.
Right? Like, they're not breaking it down, right? It's come and gone and they don't see it, right? And so we have that problem too, where we're like, oh, that didn't quite work because of this. And you're like,
really?
Yeah, but we see that because we're looking for it,
yes.
right? Like, but who's actually going to see it?
That's I think just a tough thing, not necessarily in sports or commercials, but just in general,
yeah.
is removing yourself as a creative or a media creator or producer from what you're actually making, because you are not the target audience for this stuff.
That's exactly
it's someone who doesn't know how to do this that is. I mean, as someone who edits a lot, that's one of the things I get Melissa to watch a lot of the stuff I'm cutting, because she has knowledge of what we do through me, but it's still way more passive than yours or my perspective.
Yeah.
So I'll be like cutting something. I'll be like, watch this. Does anything jump out to you as weird? Or does this bump for you? Or is it like, is something wrong with this? Do you feel anything watching this? And getting her perspective as a non-filmmaker, non-creative, is immensely helpful, because she's the person this is for.
Exactly.
Not for us who know how to make this stuff.
I ruin shows and movies for my wife all the time. Like, we'll be sitting there like, oh, that was a cool shot, or like, and it's not even like I'm nitpicking necessarily, right?
That's the tough thing too, as filmmakers, is at least I have trouble sometimes getting fully immersed in a piece of entertainment, because I'm wondering how they did something, how they put together a shot. I notice the idiosyncrasies that come with production, and
I'm thankful I don't have too much trouble. I can still like put on a movie and just sink right in and just watch it, but I can still like be taking out of it, right? So I don't put on a movie and then every single thing I'm like thinking through. I can watch it, but there's little things that'll jump out. Like if there's like a one take, like a really like long shot, it'll take me like a really long time to figure out that it's been a one shot. But once I've figured it out, I'm like, oh, that's how long has this been happening? This is really cool, right? But
did you see the new Avengers?
No, I'm so far behind on like every comic book movie. I think I've seen the first Avengers. And that's about it.
I've seen Endgame 3 times now.
Oh my god!
And there's a big one-er shot that I didn't actually realize until the second time I saw it. Okay. I was like, oh my god, this was all one take. Yeah, it's like, this is sick. I mean, it might be multiple takes, like creatively.
I've seen things where like
together, but
I'm watching things and it's meant to be like the new Shawn Mendes music video for If I Can't Have You. I watched that recently and
is
was
that the one
like,
that's like black and white.
Yeah, I watched it, but then like you're cognizant of where they can fake things, right? You see the camera kind of just dip down, and all of a sudden, like, it was just pure black, and it comes back, and something's changed. You're like, well, I know there was a cut there, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's quick enough, but like, you know where how. But again, we know how they cheat.
99.5% of people watching that will never ever detect that. They will see it. And they won't even realize it's a single shot.
And that's what I'm like, do they care?
No.
Right? No. So it's like,
it's
funny because
interesting, and
we do things for ourselves, even though it's supposed to be for a particular audience. And then I think that's why we kind of nitpick everything, or like are so focused on these things. But then the audience isn't going to see it, and then it's like, well, why am I even doing it this way? Yeah. Like, that's only for the very specific
people. I want
to, because it looks cool.
Because 1% of audiences who are filmmakers would be like, that was cool. Yeah. I'm doing it for them. I mentioned earlier we went to college together.
Yeah.
One of the things I've been very interested in is how post-secondary and college and everything, how it affects what we do. You know what I mean? Like, do you see college and, like, not necessarily even film school, or I guess film school, as like a necessity?
That's a tough question. Yes and no.
Yeah.
Necessity, probably not. I definitely think you can do a lot, especially in this day and age, if you want to get into this industry without going to school for it. I mean, I'm still on YouTube watching videos, trying to learn that way. Things change so fast too, right? So you got to stay up to, that's a good way to stay up to date. Like, I've been out of school longer than I was ever in it for this for the media arts program.
Yeah, me too.
So you can definitely get away with not going to school, but I definitely think it's very helpful. It helped me make connections. Being Sheridan grads, we kind of heard like the Sheridan Mafia, right? Like, everywhere you go, there was going to be someone from Sheridan.
Yeah.
So that helps with like connections. It helps with like a lot of the formal training, and I think it just gives you a bit better base to start from. If you're self-taught, there's a lot of people that are self-taught that are a lot better than me.
Yep.
And a lot more successful, and power to them. I had a nice base to be able to get to where I am. And so that's where school was really helpful.
You think you'd still do it if you were like now graduating? Because like, at least when I went to college, I mean, YouTube existed, but people weren't doing as much e-education and whatnot as they are now. And I was kind of thinking that, like, yesterday, I'm like, if I was now college age or looking at going to college for filmmaking or something, would I actually do it now, or would I think I could pull it off and save the money and do it without college now? Because there's so many more resources easily available. Because I started college in 2010. So
yeah, at
that point, YouTube hilariously was only 3 years old. Like,
that's crazy. Yeah, there are a lot of benefits to it. Like, some of the equipment we get to use. Yeah. I mean, you're paying tuition, so you're paying for it. But you try and go to like a rental house and rent out a Red camera as someone who's learning from YouTube. Like, are you even going to get insured for that? Like, so it's a lot harder. So it kind of comes back to establishing that base. But I can understand, like, if you're struggling to have the money to go, like, it's such a barrier. You can do it off of YouTube, online resources, and getting a cheap camera. And like, because that's the thing, like, the tools are only so much, right? Like, you got to establish your technique, and whether you're using the top of the line camera or like a point and shoot, as long as you kind of figure out the basics, like, you will grow.
It's the camera you master, not the camera itself. That's gonna be your best tool.
It's the techniques, right? Yeah. Like, it's figuring out, like, and there's things that I learned in school that I'm sure I would have learned from YouTube. Yeah. But like the 180-degree rule, it's like such a simple thing, but if it doesn't get covered in the 5 YouTube videos you watch before shooting something, and you put something together, it's gonna feel look weird. Yeah. Right. And you're not gonna understand why. The benefits to YouTube is you can be very specific. Yeah. You know exactly what you want to do, you can do it.
Yeah, I'm YouTubing stuff all the time too. A client asks me if I can do something. I'm like, yeah, no problem.
Oh yeah, fake it till you make it, right? Fake it till you make it. Absolutely.
Yeah, story of my life.
I mean, I went to school, like I said earlier, like I went to school for something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So if I tried to YouTube how to be a good writer, maybe I would have done that, but maybe I wouldn't have discovered camera work.
Yeah.
And maybe I wouldn't have gotten into sports. Like I was a sports fan all my life.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, I just wanted to be an athlete or be in sports. And now I'm in.
Yeah.
Right. And like 5 years ago, I didn't know that this is my dream job.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got it, I was like, oh my God, like this is the job I've always wanted.
Yeah.
Right. And I only kind of figured that out like a year or two ago, but I never would have known that, I don't think, if I didn't go to school and at least get my hands on a few different things.
But even that, I felt like I didn't learn very much in college necessarily, was how many jobs there actually are out there for filmmakers and creatives like us. Because at least, when I told my parents I wanted to go to film school or be a filmmaker, they were supportive, but I think, it was in the back of their minds, they were going like, we failed. Like,
oh, my parents were like, I went to university first.
Yeah,
and dropped
right.
out.
Yes, actually, so did I.
Yeah.
I dropped out after 1 year.
So they weren't really like, okay, well, at least he's going to, they were like, you don't want to maybe finish what you started?
Yeah.
Right? No, I don't.
No, this sucks.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasted all your time and money. I'm going to start over now.
Thanks. How far into university were you?
3 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I only did one. I did a semester, and then I dropped majority of my classes in second semester and just finished a couple electives, which I then carried over.
Yes.
So that I could avoid doing that during.
I did the same. I thankfully carried over my electives. But I did 3 years. I never took a full course load in a semester.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was more like 2.5 years of actual work, but I did 3 years, and I was basically a year from getting a general arts degree. I was taking film classes at university.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of when I discovered, I was like, yeah, I think this is the better route for me.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it was obviously very theory-based stuff.
Yeah.
And then I went to college for the hands-on work.
When we're talking about like going to film school, like tell your parents I want to go to film school. They think you're not going to succeed because odds are you're not going to be the next Tarantino or Scorsese or Christopher Nolan. And that's what, like, same with actors, filmmakers, actors, musicians, we get represented by like the god tier level career people who made it, you know what I mean? And are making millions, because people can't seem to separate the fact that there are people that do that job as a filmmaker, cinematographer, director, editor, who are making millions, but there's also the people that are making good money that you've just never, ever heard of. Yeah. Like, and what I've kind of compared it to is not pursuing filmmaking because the odds are stacked against you that you'll ever become Tarantino or Nolan or Scorsese or whatever, is like not pursuing a career in green energy because you're likely not going to become Elon Musk. Right. Or computer technology because you're probably not going to become Bill Gates. Like there's a million jobs and careers all in that sphere where you can make like a really healthy, lucrative income and no one will ever know your name. Yeah.
And I think that's like the way you're saying is exactly right, I think. And everyone kind of knows their field and realizes, oh, in this stream of whatever I'm doing, there's a lot of jobs along the way to being the top person that might be recognizable. We're in a type of field where it's recognizable the world over, film and television, like it's everywhere. And people know the top people, but they don't realize, like you said, that there's per film. Yes, it'd be great to work for 3 months and make millions of dollars, but there's, those directors and cinematographers, they're doing so much prep for. Yeah. And there's people that are doing jobs, especially if you're like in a union job, there you can work on a show or a series or a movie, whatever, for a week, months, yada yada. And then when that ends, there's always gonna be like there's another one. If you're working even like agency type stuff, like a lot of advertisements, now's the time when all those like basketball players and hockey players can shoot things. Yeah. So you can do a lot of promo and like on ice or on court type stuff during the season, and then all the off ice and off court stuff during the winter or during the summer months. Yeah. And then that kind of can
Well,
sting you for.
most of the stuff I've done with players has been during the summer because
Right.
they're off.
They're normal people too. Like things will pop up. Like we were prepared to get an interview with a player. We're set up in the locker room waiting. PR comes in. Like, yep, couple minutes. Cool. We're ready to go whenever they're here because you better be ready.
Yes, yeah.
You better be ready. 5 minutes later, they go, you had to run.
Yeah.
Something came up. Okay.
We did something like that happen too. We were doing an event, and I'm not going to name names, but we were supposed to have a player come out, and we get word that he like got really sick. Like just, I don't know if it was like food poisoning or something, but he like had to leave his practice earlier because he was just too sick to continue practice. But being, the fact that they're, for the most part, regular dudes who know that a lot of people look up to them. While he was sick, he was desperately trying to get someone else from his team to just step in for him and like call it fair. And he managed to find someone. So it was pretty solid. Now, the people at the event didn't know that he was supposed to be a surprise. So regardless, it still was a surprise.
True.
It wasn't
the
surprise, but it was still a surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're mostly chill dudes doing their thing.
They're awesome.
And if you don't talk to them about hockey, they're so good.
Yeah. Because
they're constantly talking about hockey.
Exactly. Yeah. So like we went to the All-Star game. We had Austin Matthews and John Tavares representing our team, and we just wanted to be at their hotel wherever they were staying.
Yeah.
For ease of access to ride along to the rink if we could get that, whatever, right? And we stayed not in downtown San Jose. I can't remember where it was. And we stayed at, this tiny little like cottage like place that the players had heard of or PR had picked, and it was amazing. And then you bump into them at like breakfast.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, how's it going? How's the food here?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I came here yesterday, whatever it is, right? And it's just like they open up to you, and it's like, for me, it's like huge because they're like, okay, they're a little more trusting of me now. They're not going to be so shy, if you will, when I'm around in places that are usually restricted.
Yeah.
And they just kind of, you're like, okay, yeah, we have a little, just a
rapport.
tiny, rapport, a connection now that you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't talk to them about their sport, and they're good. And that's the thing, like they're so used to so many people wanting something from them.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's the media wanting to talk to them about hockey and ask them questions, whatever, or it's fans that want a picture or an autograph or whatever, that if you have that rapport, that relationship, or just enough that they can be like, oh, this guy doesn't really want something from me.
Yeah. Young Josh Laszlo, you wouldn't have ever expected you were working for the Maple Leafs as a filmmaker, sort of, right? Have you been a Leafs fan your whole life?
I have. Yeah. I grew up in the GTA in Clarkson and Oakville, and like sports is still my hobby. I watched the TSC game last night. I watched the Raptors game last night. I read about sports all the time. Like that's what I like to kind of fill my time with. So being able to work in it is fantastic. And like, I get it from my dad. My dad's a huge sports fan, big Blue Jays fan, big Maple Leafs fan. And in the 2017-18 Maple Leaf season, they gave me a show, if you will. It was a weekly show, just recapping what had happened basically that week for the team, like in the games, maybe any features that were done. And it was fine. It didn't get a lot of views. It was cool to do. My dad was thrilled because it had the Maple Leafs kind of name and brand on it.
Yeah.
And then when I got the TFC job, it was still in the middle of that Leaf season because soccer is basically like a 12-month sport.
Yeah.
And like that was such a step up for me, right? Like now I'm like a cinematographer of like a sports documentary. This is where I want to go. My dad was like, yeah, but is this going to take away from like your Leafs work? I'm like, I don't care. Like you don't understand the leap here. Yeah. Right. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to grow from this small little Maple Leafs job into the big Maple Leafs job.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a straight trajectory. And obviously it wasn't. I have to get into that kind of role wherever I can. Yeah. And I was lucky that I got it through TFC. And then I made the jump over to the Maple Leafs, and my dad was just
what does your dad think now? Like,
oh my, like, so I get very regular. My dad and actually my best friend are very similar in this way. They both will send me pictures of me
Yeah.
from like the TV, or like my buddy is fortunate enough to go to a bunch of games. So whenever he goes,
He spots you.
he spots me, and I mean, he's up in the nosebleed, so he's zooming right in. I found him, right? And he texts like his fiance and my wife, and I had a little group chat, and he's like, where's Waldo? I found him today. And my dad all the time, right? Like I worked at Marley's game a couple weeks ago, and I just get a text. Oh, saw you on the broadcast at the end of the game. Great win last night.
Mm-hmm.
For a camera guy, I'm very unaware of where the cameras are, apparently.
Well, because these things, there's a million cameras
man, yeah.
everywhere. Like that red carpet was just, it's like a gaggle. There was like, and it's like, I just feel like I'm in the way of somebody else's shot. But then at that point, you just think like, fuck it. I got to get my shot too.
Yeah. I think I said to you that day, you're like, I think you said to me, let me know if I'm in your shot.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't care if I'm in yours.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I have to get mine. That's the way you have to be, right? Like you have to kind of fight for your room. And if anyone could ever see outside like the Leafs locker room post game, all the media just staying there waiting to go when they get the okay to go in, like it's like a stampede. Like, and like, obviously everyone's kind of spread out while they're waiting, but you have to fit through a door.
Yeah.
So that everyone just kind of funnels.
When we did that Kraft Hockeyville Lucan event, and we're on the red carpet, and there's, because there's like the NHL crew, there's you from MLSE, there's us from like working at Sportsnet, and whoever, CBC is probably there, and City TV, like just everybody is at this event capturing it. And I remember on the red carpet, we're shooting an interview with someone, and literally like another person came in, like one of the hosts or someone, like an on-camera person from another network, literally like came into our shot and just held the microphone up, and their camera person started filming it, and they're literally in our shot, like, and it's just like, dude, come on, like you just stand right there and just wait for them to finish. But I know their paranoia is the same thing that ours is, that they're going to finish this interview and beeline it through the door, like, and just get out of the red carpet. So it's such an interesting field to be working in because it's so different than other filmmaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, not necessarily this is filmmaking in the traditional sense of the word, but content creation. Everything it's the most run and gun, like scramble type of storytelling.
Yeah. Documentaries can be run and gun, and they're obviously very much unscripted, a lot of it, but there's certain things that you can control, redo, like sports,
there's,
hey, you know what, I wasn't recording when you scored that goal, we just dropped the puck again real quick, and the 20,000 people in the rink and millions watching at home, they won't mind if we just do this one more time, right?
We got this, it's fine, right? It's
so
cool.
And it's so stressful then, because goals are the big thing, right? Like especially in like hockey and soccer, where you don't get a ton of them, you better get that goal or
get a
good shot, right? And like with soccer, I could kind of see the shot, follow the ball, and come back and find the player. Yeah. I don't ever try and follow the puck in hockey. Like, I
don't know how they do it, man.
Like the broadcast guys amaze me, like that they can kind of follow the play as well as they do, because I'm just like on a guy and I think he shot and let's see if he reacts, and like, like you're just not sure. And like there's certain parts of the game that you can predict where things are going to happen. Like a power play, you're like, okay, let's be in slow, like better chance for a goal. Let's make sure we're in slow motion here. Like and then the puck starts getting whipped around. You're like, oh,
where is it?
Right? Like who am I on? Like what do I look at? Like, I missed a goal, but I'm sure I missed a lot of goals, but like I missed a goal because I was just on the wrong guy. I was like, I thought he shot it, and then his reaction was very subdued and he skated over. And I was like, oh, okay. He didn't like.
So then did you get the goal? It's like, I got like stuff happening during the goal.
Or like I missed the first Leaf goal of the playoffs, was Mitch Marner on like a rebound or something like that, where he like shoots and falls over as he's shooting. And it was like right in front of me, and I should have had a perfect shot, but the puck came in from the point. And then I didn't see what happened. And by the time I looked over, he was like on his belly. And I was like, now what? What did
I miss?
I was like, just pick a guy and stick with him, right? Like just get something here at this point.
Like it's also sort of reinforcing that you don't have to be perfect Like,
No.
especially like with what you're doing, it's very much like you have to be good. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to know what to look for, and you have to hit it most of the time. But like, I don't think anyone's gonna like necessarily like ream you out because you missed a certain shot at some point, because it just like it's
tough to get every single one.
Yeah.
And I mean, it took me a while to figure that out, that you don't have to be perfect.
Mhm.
And like, as much as they would tell me, but even things like buzzing focus, like, you know, especially going through school and you kind of do like the feature film type training, don't blow focus ever, right? In documentary, especially with sports, like things are moving so fast, like it's okay. And sometimes it looks better when you just
it can
like,
be
don't
stylistic.
leave it out of focus. Get it, find it. It probably will look better if it's not always perfectly in focus, right? It just adds a little extra humanity and dynamics to the shot,
imperfection that makes it feel like a genuine moment.
Because,
I mean, any good editor too will find a way. If there's a really good moment that happens that's kind of like buzzed focus, and then you pull into it, they'll find a way to make that work. It's such a different way of tackling content capture than the filmmaking route. The like, you blow focus, then you'll never get hired again. Like, and I think you really have to screw up for you to never get hired by anybody again. Like, you really gotta screw the pooch on that. People aren't actually saying like, you'll never work in this town again,
because you're not the only person making mistakes. Right? You know, I watch obviously everything we're producing for our shows, and when I'm like, oh man, yeah, that's a cool way of like how you kind of cut into that shot, or like, oh, I don't even remember getting that, right? Like, because I shoot so much, I see, you know, the number of times I get asked like, so what'd you get? And you go, I think I got the right sport today.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to remember like these like little things, but an editor or a producer, or director, whoever, someone will find that and make it work in a certain way.
Yeah.
And then I get to watch it and go, oh,
hey,
that's cool.
I got that.
Right. Like it's a weird being almost like a fan of your own work in a way, but because it touches so many other hands, it's not yours. Solely mine.
It's a collective art piece, basically. Yeah. Like, I just find it cool that sometimes I'm flipping, like I'm in a bar or something, and something I produced comes up on the TV.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really cool feeling.
It's very cool. I was at the airport one time, and a piece we had done for a LEAFS Nation network, just like an interview, 3-minute documentary on a Canadian Women's Hockey League player.
Yeah.
And it was just on like the airport bar. And I like just happened to walk by. I was like,
I shot that.
That's cool. Like, are they paying for our channel? Like, okay, cool, whatever. But it's
not my problem.
I stopped and I took a picture and I sent it to the people that worked on it. I was like, hey, look, we're on at like the airport right now. Like, isn't that wild, right? Like, yeah, just seeing your stuff go anywhere. And like with MLSE, like you're constantly like, people are shooting and we're taking footage from broadcasts and from whatever, right? And it's getting melted together for various projects.
Yeah.
So I get a kick if I'm watching the opening video and go, oh, that's my shot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my shot. Oh, cool. Like,
intermingled
that's
with
on the
other content.
big screen. Like, people are actually seeing that, right? Because I don't know. I mean, I can go check the YouTube views for our show, but I at least know there's like 15 to 20,000 people watching that shot every night.
In that arena.
In that arena every night.
It, like live in the moment.
Right? And like, it's kind of, it's the intro video. It's getting them pumped up. And whether they realize it or not, one or two of my shots are helping you kind of, cheer on the team.
Or get the fans all amped up.
I used to watch that stuff all the time. I was like, oh man, that stuff's sick. Like, let's go.
And never would have thought that was like an actual career at some point.
It's amazing. There's so many jobs out there.
Yeah.
It just in this industry and everything, like, man, there are a lot of jobs out there.
Yeah.
and through your life, like, I'm still coming across people. I'm like, that's a job?
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Someone's getting paid to do. Think of anything, and someone's getting paid to do it. What else? Like, what else is on the Josh Laszlo like career bucket list? What's something else you want to do at some point that you haven't done yet?
Yeah. I should pull out my 5-year plan from third year in Sheridan. I looked at that a little while ago, and then I trashed it. I was like, man, you don't understand how slow things can move, right? Like, by this point, I think I was like ESPN 30 for 30s. Multiple have been done. Like, I'm just floating on top of the world at this point. 3 years, 4 years out of college. Like, it doesn't move that fast.
I know. I think I said I wanted to be like a TV show runner with like, or be on my way to being a TV show runner within 5 years. That would have been 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
So it's
like I thought I'd be basically doing the job I am now within like 6 months of being out of school. Because I was like, well, I'm going to graduate and like the school's going to end in April. The season doesn't start till September, October. So that's enough time to get to that role.
Get to where
Are you kidding me, pal? Like,
but that's kind of cool that like even kind of you had a target that you want to go for and you kind of are doing it. Like,
yeah, I am.
Yeah. Like what else is there? Like, is there something you want to do eventually, whether it's like a different type of medium or like
everything still seems so fresh to being comfortable in my role and comfortable in like having a job and bringing home a paycheck.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't that long ago that I was like, can I even stay in this industry, or is it time to just go wait on tables and scrape by because the work just wasn't coming in often enough, right? And you can only ask your girlfriend or your wife or whatever to support you for so long before they're like, get a job and get out. Yeah. So things fell in line at the right time, thank goodness. So right now I want to, I mean, when I got this Maple Leafs job, I said, man, what a time to get this job.
Yeah.
Like they are on the upswing, right? So I don't really want to leave it until we reach the ultimate goal, because how amazing would it be to capture that the whole way?
Yeah.
Right. So like that's the goal, is to kind of ride the coattails of the team right now. But I think doing like kind of a long form sports documentary, like an ESPN 30 for 30 type thing, would be the ultimate kind of cherry to do. What that is, I don't know. I haven't given it enough thought, but I just kind of know that was kind of my introduction into thinking that this could be something of interest to me.
I mean, I'm not that familiar with the ESPN 30 for 30. Like what exactly is that? Is it like,
so I think they started out as 30 documentaries in 30 days.
Oh. On
a different sporting topic of some. So there was one on the Wayne Gretzky trade, and Bo Jackson has one, and now there's so many of them. They did multiple seasons, and they have short form ones. They have like they're half hour. They have even shorter ones, I believe. So like it's basically just like a long form sports documentary, just doing like
a proper
like finding a story and kind of and being more involved, right? Like not just kind of being the cinematographer, like helping with the story of it and kind of.
So getting a bit more of a creative voice in what the end product is.
As opposed to, other people are maybe telling, figuring out what the story is, and you have to go figure out how to shoot it. Or, sometimes they're telling you like, these are the kind of the shots we need. And you can kind of float in a day in my job from being like a cinematographer and being like, okay, we need roughly this. How am I going to do it, to being maybe a cam op where it's like, we need this way, go do it. Right. So
maybe like taking a bit more of like a producerial role,
and just having like the ownership over in a way. Right. And not that I don't have ownership over my role now, but just kind of seeing what's a story out there. Right. Like that's the thing with sports. It's amazing and it's unscripted, but the storylines are like so poetic, right? Like all the time, like the Raptors' second round win. Yeah. The Kawhi shot that's bouncing around the rim and goes in against the same team that Vince missed against 18 years. Like it's the
weird, like that feels like it should be a movie.
Like everyone was saying, like it was the most cheesy thing, the way it's bouncing on the rim, and it's like, but it's real life, and that's the thing that sports can do, right? Like it's like all the craziest stuff will eventually happen through there, and there's going to be a story to tell. I'd love to work out like a World Cup and a World Series and an NHL Finals and an NBA Final, like you name it, a Masters, whatever. If it's like a big sporting event, I would love to be there for some reason. So I'll try and stay in the sporting world as long as I can, as long as my wife will let me keep working evenings and weekends, because she works basically 9 to 5. So she goes to work, she comes home, I'm already gone.
Yeah.
So
shifts in the night. Is that a challenge too, though? Like that sort of like work-life balance? I mean, at least you're not like me working as an editor from your office a whole bunch of time. You have to go on site and actually do a job and come home. But the amount of scheduling and travel and weekends and evenings and everything, especially with a wife who works a job.
Yeah.
Like, is that like challenging from a personal life perspective, or?
Yeah, it definitely can be. It's probably more challenging for my wife because then she's the one that's kind of stuck at home. Like even if I'm working a home game that night and I'll be back at like 11:30, she's still by herself to cook dinner for one. Like that stinks. And then when I go on the road, they sent me to San Jose or they sent me to California for a week and I get to be in California in January.
Yeah.
She's at home shoveling a driveway. That sucks for her, right? Like, so it's definitely a challenge for the both of us. And like, that's the good thing with kind of working hockey is now that I'm kind of off for the summer. I'm way lighter in the summer. And so during the hockey season, I schedule personal things around work.
Yeah.
And in the summer, I can schedule work around personal things. So we've got our trips planned and we're going to go camping and
nice.
all that stuff. And like, we got that on the calendar. And if work comes up, I did okay during the season that I can say no.
Yep.
But during the season, like I'm kind of committed to that. And so when they say like 3 days before Valentine's Day, you're going to Vegas. Bye, honey.
Yeah.
I'm going to Vegas.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. But for me, it's recognizing the challenge for her and making it up to her when I can. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, how much do you think you've invested into your business over however this last several years? This is basically since you graduated, I guess.
Probably not a lot in comparison to the fact that it's been 4 years, but I basically bought, a camera and a lens and like a couple things right away out of school and then didn't make money for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to justify buying more gear because it's all great in theory. You go, oh, it's a business expense, but you still have to pay rent and you have to have gas and you have to buy groceries and you have to do you have life expenses that, you can't just spend your cash on gear because it's the business side of things. Well, I am my business.
Yeah.
So if I don't, I can't go to the grocery store and be like, yeah, but I have this lens you can rent and then I can have groceries and like, it doesn't work like that. So
we're not on the bartering system of the 1200s.
Not how it works. So I've probably invested like $20,000. So like a lot,
It's
in
not,
real money, but like it's
not a
comparison to some people and like some budgets for like a commercial, like just for gear for one day is way bigger than that.
Yeah.
Right? So
I know some commercials like 30-second spot, 1 day shoot can hit a $100,000 budget. No problem.
Yeah.
Like it's absurd the amount of money there is in some aspects of advertising. But I mean, like 20 grand over 4 years is not, it's nothing to balk at. Like that's like in some potential instances, like almost a full year's income.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
For some people, like
it was for me. Like, there was a year there was 2 years probably I made less than that. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like coming out of school, like it's tough sledding at first. And you have to be smart because there's people that'll just go out and they'll buy it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, that works in theory. Then you've got it. But if you're not making the money back, like that's really hard to deal with. So I've always kind of been like,
especially cameras.
Yeah.
Because cameras,
the camera I was lucky with to be able to get,
but they get
right
outdated. Like you can buy a camera for 15 grand and 5 years later it'll be a paperweight because nobody will need, like at least lenses keep their value
worth
to
an
an
investment.
extent.
Yeah,
like,
a lot more.
But cameras, like they're a crapshoot, man.
Yeah,
like you
better have used it a lot.
Yeah, you don't know when it's gonna be completely out of date. Like especially the past like 15 years as the technology's advanced. I mean, I remember at Sheridan, someone coming in and showing us a Red One when I was in fundies or first year or something. Right. And it was like, ooh, it shoots 4K and it weighs 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, that thing was a brick.
And now this guy is like $3,000. It's basically like a cell phone size.
Yeah.
And it shoots 4K at, granted, not the bit rate that the Red One did, but still like everything's gotten so much more cheaper and it outdates the previous version so quickly. Yeah. Like it's tough to spend money in this business when you have that mindset that it's like, I better make this work for me for as long as possible.
And that's what I've done. Like when I've bought something, I'm like, okay, I need this. Like I absolutely need this. And I think I can justify using this like a lot, right? Like I usually, if I need something, I'm like, I'm going to rent it first. I'm going to rent it the first couple times I need it. And then I'll be like, all right, yeah. So like even buying like a lavalier mic, like I was slow too. Yeah. I've been very fortunate in a lot of the work I do. The stuff that I have now kind of works. Like I don't have a big need for like lighting. Once in a while I've got an interview to do, but I've got a small lighting kit and I make it work, right? Like, so I'm fortunate, and I guess it depends on kind of what stream you're in as to whether you need to buy gear or rent it. Because like lenses will hold their value a lot better, but you commit to a camera. Like my camera doesn't shoot 4K. Yeah. So if anyone asks if I can do a 4K project, yeah, I can, because I can go rent it, but that's not extra money I get to take in now, because I got to spend the budget money, right? So,
and even if you do get to take it in, you got to spend that money up front first before you start billing those kit
You're
fees.
just chipping away at a bill, right?
Yeah,
so it's not like
even if you have the cash up front to pay the $3,500 for a mirrorless like 4K camera, it's $3,500 you now don't have that you have to recoup over time. So it's even then it's a while before it becomes a profit.
Yes, big time. And it's funny too, because you can look at the price of gear, like you can get that camera, you're like $3,500. Like that's not a lot compared to other cameras. Yes, but that's like 3 months rent. Yeah, right. Like you have to compare it to other things too, right? Like, I can do that, and then you go, oh, I didn't work enough this month, and now I'm pretty strapped, right? So it's all relative, I think, right? Like you got to be comparing it to the right things.
And we'll call it there. We've been at it for 2 hours, so I'm pretty pleased with this.
I like hanging out with you, man.
Yeah, let's do it. You're not far.
I'm not far.
We'll go grab a beer. You're around all summer now.
Let's do
it. All right, cool, man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the J-Cut Podcast with Josh Laszlo. I always learn something new from these podcasts, and if you like learning, then you should hit that subscribe button or the notification icon. It helps maintain the channel and get more guests to come share their insight. You can find full episodes of the J-Cut on this YouTube channel or audio versions wherever you get your podcasts. At the time of releasing, we've got 2 other episodes available and more coming weekly, so please consider checking out episode 1 with professional voiceover actor Scott Law, or episode 2 with DGC assistant film editor Sydney Cowper. And on next week's episode, we've got DGC sound editor and freelance sound mixer Taylor Brocklesby coming in to talk about the post-audio world of the filmmaking business.
I can be an accessory. I can alleviate stressors. I can just like make this portion of your life easy and simple, and I get to interact with, I guess, like the big names or the big people involved. Like I get to meet all the producers, directors,